This is a review of the Western Mountaineering Alpine Light sleeping bag and the Timmermade False Bottom sleeping bag. I'm going to give a little bit of a comparison. They are mostly the same kind of sleeping bag. The Western Mountaineering sleeping bag, I did most of my last PCT through hike, which I finished about a week ago with. And the Timmermade False Bottom sleeping bag is Tina's sleeping bag. So to start, the Western Mountaineering bag I got because my Enlightened Equipment sleeping bag fell off of my backpack in my bear bin in the Sierras and drifted down a river. So here I am with a 26-degree sleeping bag, which in the Sierras was not enough. So at the beginning in the Sierras, I did not like my Western Mountaineering sleeping bag. It was around $550, $600-ish with all the other stuff. It has 12D ripstop nylon on the front and back, which I thought was pretty weird. Why wouldn't they just do a 7D if they're trying to make a sleeping bag that's a pound? It is a pound with all the dirt and grime on it. When I weighed it today, it was 2 ounces heavier, but when I got it, it was a pound. It has a draft collar, which is super important if you're 6 feet or 6'1" is about where the regular size ends. If you're 6'2", this sleeping bag won't fit you and you need to size up. Without the draft collar, it wouldn't cinch around the neck even with a puffy. I had a Enlightened Equipment Apex puffy. It won't cinch around well enough, and so the draft collar really allows it to keep drafts from coming in. Also, unlike the Enlightened Equipment sleeping bag, the hooks for attaching it to the sleeping pad are higher up. They're both in your torso as opposed to one that's across your torso, that attaches to the sleeping bag with near your torso, and one that attaches down your leg. This is really important that it's higher up because if you're an ultralight backpacker, you're going to have a pad that's just torso length. And so if the way that the bag attaches is under where your butt is, then you're not going to be able to attach it to your pad and you're going to get a lot more drafts. That's what happens with the Enlightened Equipment bag. And so it attaches to an ultralight sleeping pad system better than most other pads. Then moving on to the baffle system and the loft. The baffle system is horizontal, which is the same as the Timmermade False Bottom bag. I think this is way better than bags that have a vertical baffle system. The Hyperlight quilt has a vertical baffle system. The Enlightened Equipment bag has a vertical baffle system. And the argument for that is that you can move the down where you want it. So if you're using a puffy while you're sleeping, and if you're an ultralight backpacker, you are wearing all of your clothing, especially if it's cold, while you're sleeping, you can sort of shake the down the sleeping bag, and you can have not as much down on your torso as you do your lower body, which the argument goes makes it so that you can really utilize the warmth of the sleeping bag in a system where you're using your puffy too. I would rather have a sleeping bag that everything just stays where it is. And so I really love the horizontal baffle system with the Western Mountaineering through my entire through hike, essentially from Bishop to the end of the Pacific Crest Trail. The loft stayed good. I didn't even wash it, which is a big deal. And I think that's because of the 12D fabric that they use on the front and the back. The grime of just sleeping in it night after night didn't get into the down, and the dirt from the ground didn't get into the down. It still stayed super lofted, which with other bags, when I did the PCT in 2021, my bag lost a lot of loft by the end. And so that's a testament to the 12D. There's also an argument that 7D fabric is too breathable, and if it's windy, it's going to lose some of its down. I disagree with this. I think that sure, it might lose a little bit of the warmth, but if it's super windy, you're going to put up your tarp and break that wind. And so that doesn't really matter as much, and it's much nicer to just have 7D. Western Mountaineering used 12D because the geese that they have their own farm where they farm their own down, which they call about 850 plus. I think it's probably more around 900. but the stems of the feathers are a little bit sharper than I think the company that both Enlightened Equipment and probably Timbermade get their down from. It's not as sharp. And so I think they just used 12D because it made it so that they didn't have as much leakage in the down. The 12D also makes it so that your skin doesn't stick to the fabric when it's wet, which is a really big deal. You'll see that if you have a Apex Enlightened Equipment puffy, when your hands are wet and you try to get it through the sleeves, it's super annoying because it sticks. This just happens with 7D. So the nice thing about the 12D is that that won't happen. But with 12D, you're going to be sacrificing some weight. You're not going to have the lightest possible, warmest sleeping bag. So to end the rating, which is 26 on the Alpine Light, is not a conservative rating. 26 would be brutal, even with a puffy. I don't know if Western Mountaineering thought that 26 is the rate. 26 is so weird too. Why is it not 25? I don't know if Western Mountaineering was saying, okay, it's 26 if you have a fully insulated full sleeping pad, but there's no ultralight backpackers that's going to be carrying a like Thermarest X Therm with a 26-degree bag. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is a ultralight sleeping bag. You should know if there's ultralight backpackers that they're going to be carrying a torso length pad. And so, 26 with a torso length self-inflatable pad like the ProLite that I use, which has good R value, and then putting my backpack underneath my legs, which also gives some R value. I would say that this sleeping bag is good to something like high 30s, which is a bummer. I think that Western Mountaineering just wanted to make a bag that was exactly a pound, and so they did. And essentially, what they got out of it was a very warm 30-degree bag. I looked on Enlightened Equipment's page and compared the amount of down in my bag to the amount of down that's in their bag and their 30-degree bag. And to be fair, the Enlightened Equipment bags are wider and bigger. This one fits a lot tighter, but the amount of down in the 30-degree Enlightened Equipment bag was about the same as the amount of down that's in the Western Mountaineering bag. So I think it's safe to say that this is like a very warm 30-degree bag and not a 26-degree bag. And on top of that, I think that anything lower than 35 degrees, I wouldn't want this bag at freezing. So that's something to think about. Don't get this bag thinking you're getting a 20-degree bag and just ignore that 6 degrees. That's a really big deal. So moving on to Cash Money's Timbermade bag. Like I said, I haven't used this in the field. I've talked to her. She loves it. It's like her favorite piece of gear. And that's a big deal because she is really critical about her gear. And if she didn't like it, she would say exactly the way she didn't like it. And we would talk over dinner about all the nitpicky ways that she didn't like that sleeping bag. And I'd ask her very nitpicky questions. But she just loves this bag. It's made by Timmermade. Timmermade is a tiny little company in New York, Ithaca. Dan is the guy who makes it. I looked at all the sewing of the bag. The craftsmanship is really good. He's super good at sewing. His company, he formed his sort of make your own gear hobby into an actual company in 2016. So he's been doing this for a really long time. If you want a bag from Timmermade, you're looking at 6 to 9 months actually wait period. I think he says on his website that it's 6 months, but give it 9 months. The bag is about the same cost as the Western Mountaineering, something like $550 to $600. It weighs about the same. I weighed Cash Money's Timmermade False Bottom, and it came in at 14.5 or 14 ounces. She's much smaller than me. I think that if it was one that was measured to my measurements, it would be right around the same weight as the Western Mountaineering. The ways that it's able to get to the same weight as the Western Mountaineering, even with this false bottom, which is a piece of fabric as opposed to actually having the clips that clip it to the sleeping pad. The way that it's able to get to the same weight is that it's using 7D on the top and 7D on the bottom as opposed to the 12D. as well as it has 1,000 proof down as opposed to something more like 900 proof. I'm not sure, but I think that, you know, Enlightened Equipment and Timbermade, they're all buying their 1,000 proof down from the same company. There's not a lot of companies likely that provide 1,000 proof down. I might be wrong. I'm guessing that this is true. The Western Mountaineering bag is made in America, and well, the Timbermade is as well in New York. Um, but they have their own farm, which is ethically sourced down. Timbermade, I don't know if their down is ethically sourced. So if that's something that you care about, touching this bag and looking at how warm it looks, even when I just have it over my lap, it immediately feels super warm. The 7D looks like really high quality 7D. Like I've said in other of my videos, I think that Montbell uses a different 7D than Enlightened Equipment, but this looks like good 7D. 7D is super hard to sew, and all of the baffles just look great. They're also horizontal baffles, just like the Western Mountaineering. It also has a draft collar, which is a simpler draft collar than the Western Mountaineering draft collar, but I'm sure it works great. The false bottom on the sleeping bag starts up at your torso, which, like I was saying with the Western Mountaineering bag, you don't want the opening to happen below your torso, because as an ultralight backpacker, you have a torso length pad, and Timmermade knows about this, so he designed it that way. Um, this, looking at the loft with this compared to the Western Mountaineering's amount of loft, this looks like a true 20-degree bag. And so getting a true 20-degree bag at the same weight as the Western Mountaineering bag, this is the lighter, more ultralight bag for sure. The major downside that you're going to have is the wait time. Also, maybe you measure wrong. So just make sure that you measure right, and that if you want more space in the bag, you give yourself more space. I think that the false bottom also will make it much warmer than the attachment systems that you have in a true quilt. That makes it so that you don't have to really worry about drafts. There's not going to be drafts because it's fully enclosed. And the cool thing about the Timbermade bag is that you're not going to have any extra space or have any weight that's wasted, because it is measured specifically to you. So to conclude, if you're someone who wants to look at and touch a bag to get into the bag and you need it right away, the Western Mountaineering 26-degree bag is great for a trail where it's not really going to get ever or not often below 35 degrees. The Timbermade bag is for someone who is looking to through hike in about a year. You have the time to order it and get the bag. They're both premium products that are costing somewhere between $550 and $600, but this, if you want a 20-degree bag, which is as light as possible, we're looking at the Timbermade bag. I thought that his sewing would not be as good, but he's been sewing since 2016, and man, it looks really nice. So I would recommend it. I know that Cash Money would recommend it. She didn't have this sleeping bag. She had I think she had the Feathered Friends tanager when she was on the CDT. I'm not sure though. Um, but she's used this a lot, really loved it. So I can recommend it. I can recommend the Western Mountaineering bag as long as it doesn't get too cold. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions that are more specific about the Timbermade or the Western Mountaineering, please ask in the comments. If I can't answer it about the Timbermade, I'll ask Cash Money. And I have a lot of experience, you know, over 1,000 miles on the Western Mountaineering, so I can answer any nitpicky niche questions about that. So thanks again.